This is the 2023 UCS X-Wing Starfighter, or I should say that it was before I got my hands on it. When the set got announced, I was thrilled about the idea of owning a big X-Wing, but when I saw the pictures, I wasn't really satisfied, though the hype was real. My mind was already working while I was waiting for my delivery, and after building it, I started messing with it. What you're looking now is the result of 4 months of project, from the ideas to the redesigning process, which was focused on many parts of the model that were lacking of fidelity. There's basically nothing left about the original aesthetic of the set. Everything you see is brand new to match shapes, proportions, and details of the real counterpart of the model that can be seen on episode 4. As a reference for my project, I found this faithful replica on YouTube that perfectly captures the essence of the Red 5 in combination with some renders that I found online. Let's start with the new stand that I made for my X-Wing project. I didn't like the old school stand Lego made for this set, and I wanted to display the model horizontally, so I went for a design with the same philosophy of the most recent UCS ships, such as the Snowspeeder or the A-Wing. The back pillar supports most of the weight and has a part of the bottom of the ship integrated in it upside down, so the model can rest on a larger area. It's cool how the connection makes the two parts go together so naturally. The second pillar came afterwards to support the front of the ship, since it ended up being more heavy than it was before, and the ship was suffering some serious nosediving. In conclusion, this is the disposition of the minifigure and the plaque on the stand. This is the model without any panel in its naked version, to show you how the structure has been rearranged. The designer went with this brilliant idea for the scissor mechanism, though one technique beam was too fragile to support the weight of the wings, causing them to bend backwards. My intention was to add a second layer of beams to have a sturdier connection point to the center of the mechanism, in order to give to the wings a larger area to sit on. This was a nightmare to redesign, given the limited room the original set had inside for structural reasons, but eventually I succeeded to make it happen. Here's how the column and the scissor mechanism connect to the model. One extremity of the column attaches with plates on top, while the other part is attached with plates on the side with the inclusion of a pair of brackets to lock everything together with a plate on top of it. There was a tiny bit of play, but it was easily solved with 2 headlight pieces with a tile on their side. Afterwards, I came up with these 2 panels with slopes that perfectly interlock with the beams and prevent them from clashing with each other. They will give the illusion of a giant round cylinder going through the fuselage horizontally, when the wings will open, exposing them. As for the top of this area, I completely got rid of the poor greebling of the original set, providing it with more detail using some pictures of the source material as a reference. I also created a shaped space for R2-D2, which I'm very happy with. Speaking of which, I replaced R2 arms with brick-built ones, to give the impression of a bigger R2 figure, which slightly solves the problem of its inaccurate scale with the ship. Now, let me take you into a deep dive of the fuselage. First of all, let's take a look at how the panels has been redesigned, starting from the back up to the front. These 2 are the upper panels from which the wings come out, and the major difference you can spot is the bigger gap necessary for the wings to go inside the fuselage. Moving towards the nose, we have these side panels that have been redesigned in their entirety. They include some control panels for the pilot, a pillar for the canopy, torpedo intake made with stickers, and the most interesting thing is this profile for the top part of the fuselage that has this precise angle. This is achieved with an assembly covered with tiles hinged at a certain angle, and the best part for me is this ingenious way to create details on the left panel to represent the mixed pieces the scrappy ship was made of. Luke's Red 5 was an old X-Wing, which was fixed with parts in different colors to continue serving the rebellion. Then we have the bottom cover, which I made specifically to follow the bottom lines created from the side panels, and it was achieved with some hinge plates to get these convergent lines. The gap in the middle is intentional, since it's necessary for the front pillar of the stand to pass through. It is held on the back by a stick piece going through the main beam, and held on the front by one of the 2 pillars of the stand. Lastly, we have the top cover, which is a thin stripe that sits on top of the main beam, but at the same time follows the profile of the side panel with millimetric precision. Panels in place, here's a quick look at the cutaway of the fuselage. Thanks to the cutaway, we can have a clean look at what the cockpit looks like. I changed the lever that the pilot uses to fly the ship, and added some tubing, which are present in the real X-Wing and go behind the seat. The canopy piece that came in the set is a great looking piece, and I was using it until I decided to do something about it. The problem with this piece is its incorrect shape. It has a width of 6 studs at the bottom and 4 studs at the top, which made the piece look out of place even after I tried to make it fit in the model in the best way possible. Afterwards, I decided to change the look of the canopy to make it accurate, so I came up with this. A brick-built canopy which compared to the original has a width of 4 studs at the bottom and 6 studs on the top, as it should be. The canopy connects to the main beam and sits on the pillars of the side panels, and everything goes together quite nicely. To conclude with the cockpit, here's a view of it without the roof. Looks pretty cool and comfy. But now we have to talk about what is considered by fans the worst part of the original set, the nose cone. I can see why designers over the years never achieved the proper shape of the nose, since its curves simply cannot be replicated in the correct way with Lego bricks. The nose was one of the last things that I modified because I knew that it would have been a challenge. After many prototypes, I came up with the idea of putting wedge plates on the sides of the middle assembly. A strategic disposition of plates, tiles and studs made me achieve the right lines that can be appreciated from different angles. These are the parts that involve the nose of the ship. In this shot, you can see how the inside of the nose went together. Top part is designed to stay in place with millimetric precision. It just sits in place and holds on its own. A little assembly of 2 tiles goes on top of everything to form this air intake detail, which the original nose had in a pretty inaccurate way. Here's a 360 of the fuselage with everything on, except for the wings. Speaking about wings, I absolutely wanted them to go inside the fuselage and get rid of those horrible gaps the set had, so I started changing the look of the wings in their entirety. These are the 4 wings and all their accessories. Wings are now 2 studs wider. Red pattern moved forward by 1 stud. Laser cannons have some detail and are more clean on the back. The tiny portion of the wing that slightly emerged from its side is achieved with jumper plates. Engine intakes feature different element usage. The back of the engines have more depth and details. The inside of the wings now have the 2 correct patterns. The back now features the right matching diagonal plate scheme that go together in a very satisfying way. And in conclusion, on the internal side of the engine, the surface of the wings is extended in order to sink into the fuselage. Here's a quick look of the original wing next to the final version. Let's take a look at how the wings connect to the body. The original set had an effective but horrible looking connection, nothing to do with how a X-Wing should look. In my model, the connection is achieved with the use of brackets that connect in an offset way. We're talking about a half stud of offset to provide the correct distance between the engine and the fuselage. The beams slide down into the wing cavity and everything is secured and locked in place with 2 axles. This area, the underside of the engines, was a challenge to represent. In the real X-Wing, the engines have a bottom round shape, but with this model it was difficult to represent, given the presence of the supportive beams that get in the way and leave no room for details. So I came up with this assembly of grey slopes that goes on top of the beams connecting with the axles, and giving the illusion of a continuous round surface with the engine intakes, which I think looks very cool. After that, the wing is filled with different subassemblies for the remaining spaces. A 1x8 tile keeps the beams tight. Then comes this plate that represents the underside surface that sinks into the fuselage and results to be extremely close to the wide round panels, but it's done on purpose. After that, we move to the back of the wing to add this tile necessary to the look of the profile created by the cavity of the engine, and it's a detail that can be found on the original X-Wing, as you can see. A little tail for the slopes. Then the wing is completed with these mirrored and detailed assemblies that represent the matching diagonal plates that go together when the wing is closed. Of course, I should have known that there would have been a catch. Wings bend due to the extended surface and the more weight, so I had to make these brackets assemblies to keep them closed tightly, without any gaps, unlike the original set which had a huge gap between the wings. Here's a spin of the completed ship with the wings closed. And in attack position. For me, the best part of the model is this line that progressively gets more thick the more you go near the nose, and it's an authentic detail the real X-Wing features. This project really was a fantastic experience that pushed my creativity to the limit, and honestly a part of me is kinda disappointed with Lego. They have a whole inventory in their hands, tons of pictures of the source material, the capabilities to reach the accuracy fans expect to find in a $240 set, and yet they release a model that is not bad, don't get me wrong, but after tons of iterations of the X-Wing, 3 of them in UCI scale, they can produce a proper replica that Lego Star Wars fans wanted for years. The new UCS X-Wing is available since May 2023. Did you buy this set? You think Lego actually did a good job with it, or you think my efforts make justice to a poor set? If you found this video interesting, consider leaving a comment with your thoughts about this. Until then, I'll see you on the next one.